So I finally decided which way I want to go in regards to 12 volt for the LandCruiser for the canopy setup. We're going to take a look at the iTechworld GoFurther battery box. Let's get into it. So after putting a lot of thought into it, research, trying to decide, trying to figure out what exactly I wanted from my power and how I was going to go about it, let's talk about why I landed on this right here. Now look, I wanted a setup that wasn't going to complicate things too much. I like to run a simple setup. I always have and I always will. It's just the way to go. Why did I land on this? Look, after doing a lot of research, I found positive and negative reviews with the iTechworld brand in general. Now, the single main reason that I chose to go with this battery box right here is because of what it offers and its functionality. The fact that it comes with a 40 amp dcdc charger standard screwed straight to the top is exactly what I was looking for. A complete package where it is pretty much plug and play and it's not complicated. Mount it straight in your canopy and away you go. So because it comes with this charger, it means that if we have a look around here, we have a triple Anderson input. This is to charge directly from your alternator or your main start battery. Now this third slot over here is for your ignition wire. And basically that's for, from my understanding, pretty much any vehicle, say post 2000, that has a temperature sensing alternator or a variable power alternator. So if you've got a vehicle that's quite old, you're just going to have an alternator that runs all the time, which means your battery is always going to have full power coming from the alternator. With a variable power alternator or a temperature sensing alternator, they vary the charge output that they give to the battery. And basically my understanding is it's all about emissions and to save fuel. So that was a big tick for me, that I could basically buy the lead already made up direct from iTechworld to run from the main start battery along the chassis, for example, plug straight into here and you have your 12 volt setup. We also have a solar input here, so perfect. I'm probably not going to run a permanent solar setup on the canopy or anything like that. This will just be for my solar blanket, so that's absolutely perfect. And this here is 175 amp Anderson output. So perfect for running an inverter, for example, maybe like a 1000 watt inverter, which is probably what I'm going to do. The other good thing about this charger, it has a mode button right here and a solar priority button right here. So with the mode button, we can basically cycle through. This is able to charge multiple batteries depending on what you're using. So maybe you're using an AGM, maybe you're using a lithium. I'm going to be using lithium for this setup. I think you'd be silly not to. So it has the ability to charge multiple batteries, which I think is amazing. As I said, solar priority button. So if you want to prioritize solar charging over alternator charging, then you've got that as well. If we look on the front here, we have a battery capacity and voltage display. So we're always going to be able to take a quick glance at what the battery is doing. If we pulled up a camp and we see it's getting low, we can chuck the solar on it and whatnot. Simple, exactly what I like. We also have an isolation switch here, which is pretty handy. So off, and we can go all the way out and actually take it out. So it's my understanding that with this switch to off, it isolates everything outgoing from the box. However, this will still cycle, this will still charge the battery. We've got 4 outlets right here. USB-C at the top there, perfect. And then a standard USB down the bottom. These other two, this other one here is your standard USBs as well, but they're the QC3, so fast charging. So that's another handy thing. The fact that you can charge phones, cameras, all sorts of stuff, whatever will take a USB, but it's all fast charging. And then you have your standard 12 volt 6 socket inputs over here. If we come around to the side here, you have your 4 Anderson input and outputs. So obviously 50 amp Andersons, which is very handy. I'm probably going to run obviously a fridge out of here and probably my compressor. Actually mount my compressor next to this. I've always wanted to do that. I'm sick of pulling my compressor out, popping the bonnet, hooking the alligator clips up. I've always wanted to do this, so that's going to be good. These are also inputs as well. So what I should have probably mentioned earlier is that this is also equipped with a MPPT solar regulator. So if you're going to hook your solar straight in here, you hook it in unregulated. You don't need a regulator, this will do that for you. So basically, solar blanket, Anderson lead straight in. However, if you do have a solar blanket or panel and it's regulator equipped, you want to use its regulator, then you can plug it into this side. So they also do one of these with a 25 amp charger. I decided to go the 40 because why not? We're going to be able to juice up the 100 amp hour lithium that I'm going to go with a lot quicker. It's going to do a really good job. So look, I actually picked this up for sale for $648, down from $1,100. Now, I bought this. A couple days later, I ended up buying the rest of the gear that I need to have a full setup. That's on its way. In the next video, in regards to power, I'll actually walk you guys through that, show you what I've bought and install it. If you go on iTechworld's website, they still have a huge sale right now, and they, from my understanding, often have big discounts. Now, I read a bunch of reviews, a lot are positive for sure, but there is a bit of negativity around this brand. People often ask the question, a company like this having such huge sales maybe should raise questions as to how they can sell the gear so cheap and obviously still turn a profit. But I'm willing to give this stuff a go. I'm gonna have to test it out myself. I'm not gonna tell you guys race out and buy this gear. I don't know, I haven't used it, but this is what it's all about. I'm keen to get this into the ute, I'm keen to get this into the canopy and actually run it and use it. And as you guys know, I'm constantly on really rough roads, and when summer comes around again, it's going to be 45 degrees. This stuff's going to be sitting in a canopy. It's honestly going to be very interesting to see how all of this works. I think I'm going to have to do a bit more with the canopy to try and get some airflow in there. I want to do that anyway. I don't really want to be running fridges and lithium batteries and chargers without some kind of airflow, so I'm just thinking about that, but I also don't want dust getting in there. Now look, obviously there's other products on the market. I was looking at a red arc battery box, for example, but you're looking at a few grand, and that's before we're even talking about a inverter, for example. Now, I just want to say that going with something like this, for me, is perfect. It actually really excites me that we have items like this on the market now, because like I've said 100 times, you're probably sick of hearing it, I like things to be simple, logical, effective, nothing too complicated, and I want to keep the engine bay as stock as possible. I'm not putting a battery under there, I don't want to put chargers under there. I want the engine bay to be as free and as clear as possible, and the less complications the better. So this here is absolutely perfect for me. The fact that I can have the whole setup in the canopy and just have the power running from the main battery directly to this charger to charge and run this whole setup is absolutely perfect. Now, I know people have been doing canopy setups for a long time and keeping stuff out from under the bonnet and whatnot. And I was actually, honestly, before I even got this LandCruiser, looking at putting like a red arc system in, a bit of a canopy fit out that you would usually see with everything mounted to the wall of the canopy and everything like that. But then I started looking into things a lot further, and I don't want to spend $5,000 or more on a battery setup. I just don't. I just don't. I have no interest in doing that. This here was the perfect option for me, and I just love that you basically have a full setup in this little box. And as I said, you can hook an inverter to it. Look, if you're trying to have 3,000 watts of inverter power to run induction cooking and stuff like that, this isn't for you. Make no mistake, there's a setup for everybody in every application. This probably is not going to work for you. But a 1,000 watt inverter run out of here is going to do a great job. And it's going to enable me to be able to charge power tools. But also, you could run a blender off it. You could run a small coffee machine if that's your thing. You can do a lot with 1,000 watts, you really can. So we will catch you on the next one, where I'm going to install all of this into the canopy, and I'm super keen to get that underway.